walk through Mayfair or Kensington right now, and you'll notice something a bit weird. Usually those for sale signs in these postcodes are, you know, barely up before they're down.
But lately, they are definitely sticking around.
Exactly. And the price tags are actually shrinking. We're seeing serious double-digit price cuts in what's supposed to be the world's most resilient property market.
It's a massive shift, honestly. We are watching a genuine buyer's market emerge in a sector that has historically been an absolute fortress for sellers.
So today we're doing a deep dive into a Knight Frank research report. It analyzes the UK housing market as of mid-2025.
Right, and we're unpacking why wealthy sellers are suddenly slashing prices.
Yeah, how specific tax reforms are redrawing the luxury map, and why the report suggests there's this fleeting window for smart buyers right now.
And this isn't just about expensive real estate. This really is a case study in fiscal policy, capital flight, and just how markets react when the rules of the game suddenly change.
Let's get right into the data. The report shows sales in prime central London, the really ultra-high-end stuff, fell by 7% in the 6 months leading up to May 2025.
And prices followed suit, dropping 2.2% annually. That's the steepest decline since last August, but you have to contrast that with prime outer London.
Right, because prices there actually ticked up by 1.1%, which is wild because hasn't central London always been the safe deposit box? Why is the outer zone outperforming the core?
It's really about the demographic. When we say outer London, think of those leafy suburbs, places like Richmond or Wandsworth.
Okay.
That market is driven by domestic buyers looking for family homes and schools. That demand is needs-based and it's sticky.
Whereas central London relies heavily on discretionary international capital.
Exactly. And right now, that capital is feeling quite unwelcome.
Which brings us to the non-dumb reforms. Most of you listening know the basics. The tax status is being scrapped. But is that alone really enough to trigger a sell-off?
Well, it's not just the income tax. The real killer here is the inheritance tax exposure.
Right.
The new rules don't just limit the tax perks to 4 years. They drag worldwide assets into the UK inheritance tax net. For a global family, that is a massive liability.
So the calculation basically changes from London is expensive but worth it to London is actively seizing my assets.
Precisely. And the report argues the government's math was off. The Treasury assumed most of these residents would just stay put.
But they totally underestimated the mobility of ultra-wealth.
They did. Moving to Milan, where there is a flat tax on overseas income, isn't a life-altering barrier for this demographic. It's really just a logistical annoyance.
So this flight of capital isn't just a threat, it is happening.
Correct. The report notes that groups like Foreign Investors for Britain warned about this exact shortfall, but the policy went ahead anyway. And now, on top of that, you have the stamp duty hike from April.
Right. The surcharge on second homes went from 3% to 5%, which in isolation, 2% doesn't sound like a market crasher.
On a multi-million-pound purchase, it's a hefty premium. It adds significant friction to the transaction.
So it's forced sellers to accept that 2023 pricing is basically dead. If a property's been sitting for 6 to 12 months, the only lever left to pull is the price.
Which brings us perfectly to the smart buyer perspective. Knight Frank suggests there's real value here right now.
But it feels a bit like catching a falling knife, doesn't it? Why buy now?
Because the competition has evaporated. You can negotiate aggressive terms today, but the main driver is the looming timeline. We have the autumn budget coming up, and the political landscape is pretty complicated.
Complicated is definitely one word for it. The report highlights a severe trilemma for Chancellor Rachel Reeves. She either has to cut spending, raise taxes, or spook the markets by borrowing more.
And that uncertainty is compounded by the internal cabinet friction the report mentions.
Yeah, you have Prime Minister Starmer insisting the UK can't tax its way to growth, while a leaked memo from Deputy PM Angela Rayner suggests doing exactly that. And just to be clear, we aren't taking sides here, just reporting what the source highlights.
Absolutely. And markets hate confusion even more than they hate high taxes. That internal conflict signals potential policy instability.
That's why the smart money might be looking to lock in deals right now before the next budget potentially moves the goalposts again.
Spot on.
So to wrap this up, the market is currently defined by repricing. Foreign investment is cooling due to tax changes, while the domestic family market in the outer zones holds remarkably steady.
It's a clear divergence. The smart buyer window is open, but likely only until we get clarity or chaos from the next fiscal statement.
It leaves you with a really provocative question to think about. The source suggests these policies have obvious flaws. If the goal is to increase tax revenue, but the result is an exodus of taxpayers to places like Italy, does the strategy ultimately cost the economy more than it gains?
That is a question the Treasury might end up answering the hard way.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We will catch you on the next one.